Gamers, this video will be going over all of the echo sets, how they function properly, and who some of these echo sets are good on. Now, I didn't want this to be a long-wind video, so this hopefully it will be within under 10 minutes. But I will be talking about some echoes individually and how they function, just so you get a better idea of how to run these in your team comp. And on top of that, I will be giving you a couple of options whenever it comes to each character. Not all of them, just, whenever they arise. So let's just start with the very first one, Freezing Frost. Now, first off, I forgot before I start, this is all from perdwin.gg. If y'all want to go give them some love, they make amazing guides on their website. It's very good. That's why I'm taking all this information from. So please go give them some love. Look at their advertisements on their website. I don't know how else you'd give them love. But the Freezing Frost. So glacier damage increased by 10%. That's just the 2 set. And I don't really see a reason why you would run a 2 set on any individual character. I believe all the characters you want to run a 4 set of a specific kind on all of them. There's never really a reason why you wouldn't. And you'll even see here, upon using basic attack or heavy attack, glacier damage increases by 10%, stacking up to 3 times, lasting for 15 seconds. Most of these are going to be 15 second buffs on an individual target, especially the DPS echo sets. But yeah, this stacks up to 3 times, so you're talking about a 40% with this on top and then this here. So you're getting a lot of damage. So 40% compared to if you ran a 2 set of 2 different things, you're talking about a 20%. So you're getting half the effect if you run a 2 set of 2 different echoes. So you almost always, of any of the characters I can think of, you always want to run a 5 set of 1 type of echo. And the one that you'll normally be using with that is going to be this Lampia Lumen Myriad. And on top of that, a lot of the Overlord class echoes you're going to be wanting to run as your main, specifically because they have bonus effects. So this one, a lot of damage, but then you keep reading, each shock increases the current character's glacial damage by 4% and resonant skill damage dealt by 4% for 15 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So you get even more glacial damage on top of it. Now, right now, the only character that you'd really want to run this on is Ling Yang. There's no one else that's really a main ice DPS, but keep an eye out if anyone else comes out that's an ice DPS. You know what to throw on them. Now, Molten Rift is going to be a little bit different. So if we go back to Frost, it's basic attacks or heavy attacks that proc the passive. And for Fire, it's going to be resonant skill. So you can see here that each of these different classes or element types are going to be a specific character type. So the ice one is going to be more of your melee class characters, and the fire is going to be more of your skill attack. You have to pop your skill normally in order to get the full effects of their damage off. So fusion damage 10%, that's going to be a common occurrence here. And then upon using resonant skill, fusion damage increases by 30% for 15 seconds. So there you go. I think I like this one more because I feel like this one should increase it higher than 10%. It should be like 11%, so it stacks up to 33%, because here you have to hit them with the basic attack 3 times to get that effect. Whereas here you press the skill 1 time and you got the effect. So this one's a lot faster, takes less time to charge, but you get the exact same amount of effect from it. And you're obviously going to be running the Inferno Rider, which is going to give, big damage. And then down here, when exiting the Rider, deal 12% fuse damage in front. Yeah, just big damage overall. Just big damage. All right, so next, who you want to run this on before I get ahead of myself. Encore and possibly Chixia. Chixia, I could see you running a different relic type, but we'll get to that in a second. But this is going to be your Encore kind of build, all right? So let's go over to the Void Thunder set. Now this one has the most annoying characters for their main Overlord class echoes, but we'll get to that in a second. Now the electro damage increases by 10%, and then for the 5 set, we got upon using heavy attack or resonant skill, so either or, you get the electro damage increased by 15% and stacks up to 2 times, so each stack lasts 15 seconds. So this is kind of a hybrid between the Molten Rift and the Freezing Frost characters, so they're going to use either or. And this one's just going to be increased character electro damage. Oh! This one right here increases damage, deals damage, and then increases the current character's electro damage by 12% and heavy attack damage by 12%. So that's going to be good. That's going to be really, really good. And then right here, let's see. After the final hit, increases the current character's electro damage 12% and resonant liberation damage by 12%. So this one's going to be your heavy damage and your electro damage. This one's going to be your ultimate damage and your electro damage. So you're going to have to choose which one your character is mostly around and decide from there. So, for example, Calchero, I would probably pick this one since he's going to be using his Resonance Liberation a lot more than his Heavy Attack. His Heavy Attack takes forever to come out anyway. So, I would see you running this more. But the problem with this is that this character, this Echo here, takes forever to use the full class, and it's so annoying because you go out, you hit like 5 times and then you do a heavy slam. It's so annoying. But yeah, this one's annoying to pop. This one, it's gonna be, I guess, Wuwu? Yeah, Wuwu, because he is, you know, Fedora Man, tips the hat Milady guy. I can see that since Wuwu wants to spam his heavy attack, so that would be his, you know, his ability here, or his main echo right here. So now we're gonna move over. Well, when it comes to Yinlin, I don't know her kid enough, so I can't say for certain, but we're gonna move over anyway. So Gale, the wind one, 10% win. Okay, upon using intro skill. So this one's the easiest to proc because all you have to do is get the concerto meter up for your other character and then intro with this main character, and then aereo damage increased by 30% for 15 seconds. So this one's incredibly easy to just immediately proc the moment you're on the field. You just have to make sure that you are ready to damage the moment you step on that field. And then on top of that, we have the big old monkey, which after the follow-up strike hits, the current character's aereo damage increases by 12% and heavy attack damage increases by 12%. And if it isn't obvious already, this is screaming G1. This screams him. You want to switch to him, then you want to pop his echo first in order to get the full bonus. So you'll get this 30%, then you'll get this 12%. And G1, if you didn't know, his ultimate counts only as heavy attack damage. So you're actually getting a, if I'm not mistaken, a 24% damage buff because his heavy attack counts as aereo damage constantly. On top of that, you have, you know, so that's a 12% there, and then it counts as heavy attack, so you get another 12%. So you want to do all your buffs on your other characters, switch to him, pop this, then you got all of this going on. You got just buffs galore. This game is all about the buffs. Now, Alto, Jianzin, Yang, they wouldn't be using this just because they're not main DPSs. I mean, if you want to try running them as a main DPS, I can see that happening, but they're going to be mostly on our support builds, which I will get to in a second. So Celestial Light, Spectro damage 10%. Upon using intro skill, Spectro damage increases by 30% for 15 seconds. So this is another intro skill just like our wind set. And you're going to be using Morning Axis or AX. And then you do damage, and after the transformation, increases character Spectro damage by 12% and Resonance Liberation damage by 12%. So it's going to be just, you know, damage and then your ult damage. So this class of character, I mean, you're not going to be using on Verena, and the only other character is Rover that you'd be using it on. So yeah, I mean, I guess you'll be using this on Rover. All right, Havoc is going to be 10%, and then upon using basic attack or heavy attack, Havoc increases by 7.5%, stacking up to 4 times for 15 seconds. So this is very similar to the freezing frost, except it's going to take longer to stack up your full effect, because this one is going to be 10%, stacks up to 3 times. This is 4 times for 7.5%. And let me just take out the quick calculator to make sure that is the same amount, or if they just made us work harder. Yeah, you are getting literally no benefit from having to stack it up more times, which is kind of BS, kind of sucks, but hey, maybe they're used to, you know, damage faster or whatever. The damage of this echo skill is increased by 50% during the first 5 seconds after Rover Havoc casts Resonance Liberation. Now this is specifically targeted for Rover for some reason, which I think is cool. But yeah, this is going to be Rover's thing. I know what I just said, I'll probably cut that out, but this is Rover's thing since it increases it. You can use it on other characters, but Rover. And then over here you got you know, damage, and then havoc damage increased by 12% and resonance liberation damage increased by 12% for 15 seconds. So yeah, this person for the other havoc characters, and that's pretty simple. That's pretty straightforward. You get more damage here, especially on skill damage right there. So for Rover, you're going to want to use Dreamless. For Don Jin, I would say use Crownless, or you wouldn't get this damage buff. You wouldn't even get this. You just get damage. All right. And for, I might butcher this name, for Tiao Chi, we wouldn't use any of this. She is a support character, so we wouldn't use any of that. So any healer character, any character that can heal a team member, use this set. All right. Healing increases by 10% upon healing allies. So you have to not just heal yourself. It has to be other characters. That is my belief. I don't believe you can just throw this on somebody who heals himself and have that count. Increases attack of the entire team by 15%, lasting 30 seconds. So this is a must. You will get a free 15% damage on all of your characters. So in your rotation, you have main DPS, secondary DPS, healer. You do healer. You get the 15% for 30 seconds. You switch to your secondary DPS. Let's say it takes about 15 seconds to charge up to your concerto meter. Your concerto meter charge, you switch off. Then you get your main DPS going, and bada bing, bada boom, you're golden. Now for this character, or for this, I would say run Bellborn Geocalone. It is a 15-second increase in your, well, I'll just read it. You deal damage real quick, and then shield lasts for 15 seconds. Provide 15% damage reduction, so if you get hit, you get less damage. And a 10% damage boost for the current team members. So any time while this 15 seconds is going, if you switch to another character, they will have this damage reduction and damage buff of 10%. The problem is that it disappears after the current character is hit 3 times. So if you suck, it's not good. So you might be able to, in a hyper switch comp, be able to get a little bit out of this on your main DPS. If you switch from healer to your secondary to main, you might be able to get like 5, maybe 10 seconds of 10% bonus damage, but don't expect that to be happening all the time. Okay, so this is going to be, a light possible get a little bit more damage. And the other factor is that you lose it in 15 seconds, or you lose it in 3 hits. So you have to be basically not using the 50% damage reduction in order to get the 10%. It's a give or take here. So yeah. Anyway, we go over to Moonlight Clouds, and this is going to be your overall support characters. So energy regen increases by 10%, so you get your ult more, quickly. And then upon using outro skill, attack of the next resonator increases by 22% for 15 seconds. That is massive. That is huge. That's incredible. So like I was saying before, you get the 15% here, switch to your secondary DPS, switch off of them once you get your concerto meter filled. You get 22% with this. So then you got 15%, 22.5%. Then maybe we're running this. So you got 30%. Maybe the character has their own buffing capabilities. You get another 30%. Then you got this one, where you get 12%. So you see how these things stack. As long as you're running the rotation properly, it stacks exponentially higher with how much damage buffs you are getting. And the literal only the only echo you will be running in your main slot will be this one. Specifically, not for the damage, but it also increases energy recharge rate, so you get your ult even faster. But for this, the current character uses their outro skill within the next 15 seconds. The next character's damage dealt will be boosted by 12% for 15 seconds. So that's another bonus damage. It's insane how much bonus damage we are getting here. You're going to be getting so much damage, just all the damage in the world. We're going to be just all the bonus damage in the world. Now, the characters you'll be using this on, I'll just say a couple of them. I can see this on Alto. I can see this on possibly Jiang Zhen, depending on where you're running her in your rotation. I can see this on San Hua, Tai Chi, Yang Yang, let me see, more Tefi. You know, anyone that is going to be a buffer that has an outro skill that buffs the character, the next character, and only the next character, I can see them running this in correlation with that, and then having your main DPS be able to just deal even more DPS. Now, this one's the weird one. This is a very strange one. So I'm not going to go over the echoes here, but just the passive here. 2 sets, attack increases by 10%. All right, and then you have while on field, attack increases by 5% every 1.5 seconds, stacks up to 4 times. And then the outro skill increases by 60% damage. So let me just make sure my calculation. Let me take out the old calculator. 4, that's 20. I don't know why I took out my calculator for that. Can't be dumb. So you're getting a lesser buff here, but what you're sacrificing in that 10% less buff here is that you're getting a 60% outro skill increase in damage. So if it's someone that is someone that you plan on having on the field for a long period of time, this one actually rivals the damage of other main sets. For example, if you're running someone like Calchero, whose plan is to stay on the field for their entirety of their ultimate and then swap off after that, then this would be a great set on him. The problem with that is if you run this set, then you are ultimately saying, I will not swap off of this character. I will not use the swap cancel tech at all. So if you don't plan on using that tech, then I would run this set. Because this one specifically is if you swap off of them, then you lose the buff. And then you have to recharge the buff. So other sets, this one, it lasts for 15 seconds. So you can swap off and then swap back and you'll still have the buff for the remainder of that 15 seconds. This one, you swap off for any point in time, regardless of when it will reset it. And you'll have to, get it back up there for which is ultimately 6 seconds. You'll have to get it back up there. So just pay attention to that. You can't hot swap at all with this. I mean, it is really good. If you see some of the damage numbers comparatively to the other sets, it is comparative. Like, if you wanted to run Molten versus this, it is fairly comparative. It's like a 2% to a 4% difference in damage, but you have to remember you cannot swap off of it. So you're kind of ruining the fun factor if you wanted to learn how to hot swap, which is really hard to do, but it is fun. That's what you're losing in accordance to that. And on top of that, you're also, if you look at the overclass units, which is going to be the ones that are mostly the buffers. You might find a buffer somewhere in here. I'm not going to read them all, but this one is for your electro damage and increases current character's attack by 12% for 15 seconds. So you get just an increase in attack. I thought this was electro damage. My bad. I thought this was increasing electro damage. So yeah, you would immediately just be running this one for a bonus in attack for 12%. So this is just your overall attack one. It's pretty self-explanatory once you know how all of these work and how they're broken down. But this is what the tricky one is. It really, it's good. You just have to know that you can't swap off of your characters until you are done using their ultimate or using them overall. So thank you guys for coming and watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, Johnny.